Thank you for joining us today on the Kingdom Lifestyle Vlog as we journey in discovering the truth of what Jesus spoke in Matthew chapter 5, verse 7 on the Sermon on the Mount. Today we're talking about the sanctity of marriage. Matthew chapter 5, verse 31 says, "Furthermore, it has been said, whoever divorces his wife, let him give her a certificate of divorce. But I say to you that whoever divorces his wife for any reason except sexual immorality causes her to commit adultery, and whoever marries a woman who is divorced commits adultery." Jesus is not giving a comprehensive teaching on the values of divorce and all this stuff, and doesn't really address a lot of the pastoral issues that we face in the church. But what he is focusing on is the power and the value of the gift of marriage between a man and a woman. I first want to bring up the reasons on what Jesus and how God sees marriage and the covenant that you make before God. There are two things that bring that covenant to a completion in God's eyes when you marry your spouse. The first one is the legal document and agreement that you make, and the covenant you give to your spouse as well as to God in front of witnesses, saying that I vow to be the husband or the wife to this individual for the rest of my life, to fight for them, to fight for this relationship and marriage with everything in me. That's the first agreement and covenant that you make before the Lord. The second one, though, is not usually seen, but it's the sexual union on that wedding night or whenever it happens after the wedding day that you make with that individual, that's your spouse now. And that is a covenant, and God says in that covenant you have become one flesh with that individual. Therefore you are pioneering together for the rest of your life to fight for the relationship. Do you also know that the marriage covenant is a symbol of how God's going to bring in the end of the age the marriage of the Lamb and the bride of Christ, which is the church? But he unites together and we become one with Jesus for eternity, and we get to reign with him on the earth together as a married covenant between Jesus and the bride, and we get to shine in his glory with him. Something else I want to bring up is the importance of why Jesus is bringing this up is in Malachi it says God hates divorce. God desires that no man or woman separate under any reason except sexual immorality, and here's why. A divorce in God's eyes is not just a legal document that says you are divorced of somebody else, but another reason on what God says is divorce is that when you break that sexual union and commitment and covenant that you have before God with another individual, also known as sexual immorality or sexual adultery, that is breaking the covenant, an agreement of what you made before God and before that other individual. So I encourage you today, in your quiet time, ask the Lord, do I value and sanctify the marriage covenant before my spouse as well as before God the same way God sees it? The second question I encourage you to ask, do you see Jesus as your bridegroom? And are you looking to him to lead your life as well as lead your relationship between you and your spouse? Thank you for being with us today. God bless.